Hey there, and welcome to another edition of HiiVE Podcast, introducing you to the eXp Realty trailblazers and newsmakers that are aligning under one brokerage and creating a movement in the real estate industry. I'm your HiiVE host, Sam Rodriguez. What is all the buzz? Good morning, everybody. We'll be getting started in about 2 more minutes. Hey, Rich, I think you're in here. If so, go ahead and make your way on up. Oh, there you are. How's it going, Rich?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, doing great. Long time no see, no avatar. I've missed you.
Same here, Sam. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I'm shocked that it's taken us this long to get you out here, but happy to have you. I'm very excited. Looking forward to all the great nuggets you're about to drop with the group.
All right, cool. I'm amped up. Let's see what we can do today.
Awesome. So we got about 1 more minute or so before we jump in.
Okay, sounds good. Sam, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
I could go down 1,000 rabbit holes here because I pretty much am obsessed with this for the last 2.5 years. I could work on an open Q&A at the end just to help with some objection handling maybe, but do you want me to work on like 3 lanes, or do you want me to do the latter thing that I did at the shareholders meeting? Is there any direction you should point me in, or?
Honestly, it's whatever I know. We're going to try to squeeze as much as we can out of you in an hour. And so we'll do a short intro at the front end here, which we're about to get ready to start. And then Rich, yeah, definitely would love to. I mean, you've been a top attractor here for a long time now. So any nuggets, honestly, I'll kind of lead you some directions, but I definitely would love for you to share anything that you think will be very helpful for the group.
Hey, buddy. You got it.
Awesome. Well, it is the top of the hour, and good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to our friends on the East Coast. My name is Sam Rodriguez. I'm the VP of U.S. Growth and International Expansion, and we do this session every single Wednesday. You might have previously known it as the Build Your Revenue Share class, and we did a slight change to the name as we didn't really want to focus on your revenue per se. Revenue share is a byproduct of being in business with great agents, and we get to bring you special guests after special guests. Today we have the pleasure of bringing you Rich Tomasini out from North Carolina. So Rich, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Exciting. We're looking forward to hearing all about how you built up the organization that you built. Before we do so, I'd love to maybe first start off with a short introduction, Rich, a little bit about yourself, a little bit about life before eXp, and then we'll get into how you got to eXp and kind of the journey from there.
Yeah, thanks so much. So eXp was a midlife crisis for me. I came over here when I was 40, which was almost 3 years ago. And I've got 2 little boys that are under 4, and my wife, her name is Katie, and I live about 20 minutes north of Charlotte, North Carolina. I entered real estate in '99 as a real estate appraiser for 8 years, and I flipped about, say, just a little under $30 million of business of houses that I lived in when I was in Fort Lauderdale. And then in 2005, I moved to North Carolina, and I joined up with a company called RE/MAX. And I got up and running as a listing agent rather quickly and ran the second biggest team for RE/MAX in the state of North Carolina. And then the market crashed. So I went to a startup, it was a property management company, and I became a manager there at the company. And we increased our rentals from 300 units to 1,300. And I brought in about 20 agents, which planted the seed that agent attraction might be something I revisit when I'm more mature. So then I went back to another brokerage and sold real estate for 6 years there. And then eXp knocked at my door, and I've been in Charlotte since with eXp since August of 2017. And I was just looking at, we were number 1 in Charlotte last year. We did $1.3 billion of sales. And I was just looking at a year to date. Yeah, we did. Yeah, thank you, Sam.
You
awesome,
guys have been crushing it there. I mean, it's phenomenal. When people always ask us, and they're like, what are the largest states? And when I mentioned North Carolina as one of the largest, they're blown away. And you guys have done a phenomenal job. I mean, Rich, you and your group have led the way. I mean that's huge. Number one in Charlotte. That's giant.
Yeah,
So huge congrats.
we're number one in 2020 still, but it really has very little to do with me and more to do with all the agents that are out there on nights and weekends selling houses, right? So we just got a lot of us here in a reasonably small city. So yeah, we're very excited.
Rich, what's that group grown to? Let's talk about that number so that everybody has a good idea of your attraction efforts and the success that you have created here. Total size of the organization and frontline.
I have 44 level ones, and I have about 880 agents. I have 70 agents in the UK that are not showing on their revenue share yet, but anyway, yeah, we're getting bigger. More importantly than the size of my organization, because there's a lot of people that you've seen on this call the last 2 years that have a larger organization than I do. I've got some of the greatest people at eXp that we work with daily. So we're small, but we're close.
I don't think that's really small, but you're just being modest, Rich. So I mean, 44 front line that's huge because there's that's the 40 number that everybody is aspiring for. So and to do it in 2.5 years, how I guess that's probably the question. Kind of the majority of the reason why we have this session here every single week is so that then the group that can hear to learn how did you create that kind of the size of the group that you created, the productivity, because again, like you said, it's not so much the number of the people, but it's the quality of the people. So, how did you build it up? Because Charlotte wasn't number one when you came over.
No, we were number 564. So we had, well, there's a few things. So I got 40 level ones in 13 months because I kept my head down. So I haven't done a whole lot of agent attraction firsthand for me directly in the last couple of years. I've been spending more time working on other people's level ones, right? So I got out of the gate fast by explaining the model. And the way that I explained the model was to simplify it. So I went to public school, so I try to make everything pretty simple. I used a 3-lane highway where, we have lane 1 selling real estate at any of the antiquated brokerages out there. And at eXp, there's a couple unique things that we have that you don't have at your current brokerage. And one, we have the ability to outperform the model and icon and get that money back in stock. 2, we have Workplace, which is great because nobody wants to learn a new system. And the interface is exactly like Facebook because Facebook created it. So I kind of explained how we have that ability to give referrals and collaborate in a way that's never been done before. I've got new agents that have questions at 11:30 at night. They post a question, 50 comments in 2 minutes. So I like that. We also have the iBuyer program. We have 80-20 commission splits. When you're a new agent, that's like a blessing, right? I mean, instead of being at 50-50, and if you're an experienced agent, that might be a step back for you, but with the cap and the ability to icon, you could virtually work here for 100% and $5,000 in transaction fees, plus and broker review. So I think it's a really good concept and a good model in lane 1. We have the Cloud University. We have 70 hours of live education. We have 400 employees, many of them licensed, waiting to help us with accounting and IT and brokerage operations and all of that stuff. We have the best agents as our teachers, icon agents teaching these classes. We have mentorship for new agents. We have sponsorship, which is a lifelong coaching mentorship for agents that we can brainstorm and collaborate. So, in lane 1, we actually have a lot to offer. COVID-19 has exposed the importance of a virtual brokerage. Everybody else went on defense and we went on offense. I think we're in a time of very low visibility, and it's 2020 here at eXp. So I explained that in lane 1. And then lane 2 is we're shareholders. This is not a franchised model. It's one brokerage where you can have one cap and sell in all 50 states, more markets than any other company. We are in 7 countries. We opened up the UK through Barry Pulver in North Carolina. That was exciting. I did that at my dining room table in a pair of sweatpants and a tank top, right? I mean, it's incredible how you can scale and compound here. So as a shareholder, the stock was $2.87 when I came over, and now it's trading at $9.40, right? So imagine what that would have done for me the last 21 years I've been selling real estate. That's a nice thing. So I kind of use lane 2 as kind of the cruise control lane, right? It's concurrently working with lane 1, yet instead of getting awards and certificates and an occasional pat on the back once a year, you get shares of stock, and you get it a multitude of ways: on your first transaction, on your cap, when you bring an agent over and help them close their first deal, through the equity program, which is more immediate, and through the icon. And so I like that. And then we also have lane 3, which is the lane that you're going to need to figure out so you can get off the ramp and go enjoy your life and not have to worry about money. And the revenue share lane, lane 3, allows you to expand without any geographical lines. I mean, now with Michael Valdez coming on as international growth, I had a good call with him. I mean, he's growth oriented, and Dave Canola's growth oriented, and Sam's growth, and Chris is growth. There's a company that wants to grow. So you have the ability to do that and not have to spend $250,000 on a franchise. $150 it cost me to get up to almost 900 agents. I had 3 when I came over, including me. And then I had 300 at the end of the first year and 700 at the end of the second year. And I mean, where else can you do that? It's incredible. So the first way that I was able to get level 1s is just be able to explain the model in a digestible way for agents that want to learn about it, but it's just too much to unpack and it confuses them. So get it nice and square.
You've done a really good job with that too, Rich, because I know you're I've seen some of your visual presentations. I've seen the I don't know if it was a diner, but your sugar packets. You're really good at putting these into perspective. I've seen your videos. So I think that actually helps, because when you say explaining the model, when any of us talk about explaining the model, there's a difference between explaining or introducing, right, and inviting, versus the we discussions. And I love how you put those into perspective, because and actually, yeah, maybe I didn't have any of those handy, Rich. I don't know if you want to pop some of those in, or maybe DM while you're speaking, Rich. Maybe we can find some of those videos and pop them in here. But I find them really, really helpful, and because again, you're able to visually. We hear that all the time, right? As people are visual, and you start talking about the model, talking about it isn't the same as actually showing them the model. Sorry to interrupt, Rich, because I did want to touch on that a little bit deeper, because you do such a great job at that.
Thanks, Sam. I agree. So I'm not a very good salesperson, and I'm not a big fan of most salespeople. So being viscerally off-put by sales, I try to go into consultation mode where I just explain and let them decide. Sometimes I'll hit home on certain topics if I feel like they're not doing enough critical thinking. But for the most part, I just want to just kind of unpack this in a way that's easy to explain. Because when Bill Price was my sponsor or is my sponsor, and when he brought me over, he was explaining the model, but I was confused. And of course he would be confused. He had just joined about a month before me, and we both agreed that there's got to be a better way to figure this out. So we started copying Brent Gove, and we had a lunch and learn, which turned into 13 concurrent lunch and learns in Charlotte. We had more people than the fire department would like us to have at some of those events. And that allowed us to get a little bit more leverage and able to get people to invite people to these things. Most people don't want to be sold on the phone, and most agents aren't good recruiters. I wasn't. So we figured an invitation is better than a presentation. So we invited them to a presentation, and then, Bill and I got, well-versed in being able to explain this. And then other agents that were developing underneath us broke out and had their own lunch and learns, and that's how we leveraged out. And we got Jason Gesson to come out and do a big event in January. I called Jason and asked him to come out. That was January 2018. We had 350 people there. And then I decided to start doing Zoom calls a couple years ago, right? It was the first time I'd been on a Zoom call. I was like, wow, this is great. Because I had so many big agents that wouldn't attend the lunch and learn because they didn't want to be seen, and they didn't want their brokerage to find out. So if you can type in Mickey Mouse and black out your screen, you can listen to eXp. So we just got done with ours. We did ours at 10 o'clock. We do it every week. And you guys are all welcome to it. Just work chat me and I'll send you guys the link. So anyway, so that was kind of like the micro and macro, right? So get your level 1s set up and get more columns, and then help those columns get as deep as possible.
That's good stuff, Rich. And I guess so on day 1 when you started at eXp, What was the first thing or things that you did? Because you jumped up right out the gate and you built this up pretty quickly. So for those, because I think a lot of us get in the analysis by paralysis, and we get too stuck in the weeds of, oh, I got to do this first, or I got to make my website look better, or whatever it is they get stuck on, right? Same thing in real estate
Yeah.
sales. So what was it that what were the things that you jumped into right away that you found successes with early on, and to follow up to that, is it any different today?
Yeah, it's a little different today. It's changed. I took my medicine in the morning, right? So I'm a big fan of time blocking because I like to have as much of my own time as I can. So I went out on agent attraction and made sure that I was doing that every single day to advance the ball, to move the needle here for my family. So I spent a lot of time on agent attraction, not a lot of hours, but a lot of time within that time, a lot of intensity and a lot of production. So I would call agents for an hour every single day when I first came over, and I fell off that pace and probably ended up an hour a week, probably by 4 or 5 months in, because we were so busy touring and having conversations and creating different venues and all kinds of stuff. Plus I was selling a lot of houses. I think I did $12 million of business my first year just by myself on the listing side. So, there's agents that do a lot more, but I was working with a team. They were doing theirs, I was doing mine. I took credit for all of it because it was my team and I passed out leads, but I didn't really have a big infrastructure. I had one part-time assistant. So I was busy doing that. What I would say is the way I do it now is I probably work now more, I create everything analogies to boxing because I used to be a boxer and I taught martial arts for years. And, I think a lot of people are looking for the first round knockout, like just that first shot, and there's very few Mike Tysons in the world, right? So, I consider building relationships like working the body. This is going to pay you down the road. And, now at this point, we have enough to sell on. So I build relationships with agents that I want to work with. There's a lot of agents I don't want to work with. And there's agents in my revenue share organization that I probably wouldn't have a firsthand relationship with, just different energies. And they signed up under somebody that was more their energy level. But for me, I have a type. I want somebody who has bills, who needs to work. I want somebody who's not a hobbyist. I want somebody who worries about the client more than the commission. I want somebody who is either uber talented that I can mold, or that's already figured out how to sell real estate. That's one thing I wanted to touch on. I'm glad I bumped into that accidentally here. I'm an external processor, so forgive me here. But, I went after the best agents in Charlotte. So when Bill was looking at this, he was new at it. And he was like, Rich, we got to fill these seats. And, I had started my business on prospecting. So I was like, let me go on MLS and pull up the market reports and find out what the production is. And I'm going after all the people that intimidate me. And I went through those phone calls and it's funny, practice really does make perfect. I mean, I'm a much better attractor of realtors now than I was on day one, yet my work ethic on day one outpaces what I'm doing now. So I got further along earlier on. So you can do it through talent, or you can do it through technique, or you can do it through just sheer hustle. But they all work.
I love that, Rich. You did bring up something again and I love that you guys always bring something different to the table every week. You brought something that I haven't actually thought about in quite some time, and that was that we get to pick. It's like living in your home. If the properties next to you are available, we don't get the chance to pick our neighbors, right? But here at eXp, we get a chance to actually pick our business partners. How cool is that? And I'm glad you did bring up that point. It reminds me, Rich, of a time when I was in another company. That it was all about, got to hit those numbers, and it was anybody. It was, if you had a pulse, great, let's, pulse and a license, great, let's get you on board. And then I went independent after that, and you're right about that point, because at that point, there were people that I had hired before at the other company that I didn't invite to my other company. When I went independent, I didn't invite them because you're right, I get to choose who I wanted to surround myself at that point. It wasn't because I had to hit certain numbers, it's because I got to choose who I was going to surround myself with and do business with. So I think that's a key point. And I love you making that list or getting that list and going down, the people that intimidate us. I think, honestly, doesn't anybody at your business or above intimidate anybody, right? How did you get past that? Just curious to see if that might be anything different on your end. Did you just plow through? I know it becomes a mindset thing, right? You want to share that a little bit about that?
No, it does, Sam. You don't get past the intimidation. Courage is being able to work through your fear. So you don't get past. You don't figure it out. You just hustle right through it. I think I had an advantage on every single agent I talked to. And that advantage is that I brought a gun to a knife fight. The eXp model outperforms every single real estate brokerage model in the country, in my opinion. And I brought over Keller Williams franchise owners, RE/MAX franchise owners, big independents. We have probably more icon agents in Charlotte than on the majority of the East Coast. We have people that made me nervous. And when you go after the influencers and the high producers, they attract like talent. So, if you got pools of people, right, you got the people that find what's wrong with everything in life, right? So they hang out with each other, right? This way they don't have to feel uncomfortable. And then you got the people that are all action, no talk. They hang out with each other. So if you want to build a group of people that has a stereotype to it or an MO to it, then be very, careful and specific about which group you want to be in. And the way that I looked at it was I want to be with all the people that are doing all the business. And a lot of them said no. And some said yes 6 months later, some said yes 2 years later, some still say no. But my revenue share last month was enough to at least get their respect, if not their cooperation and making them change. And I think some agents are going to take 5 years to come over. It's a big move. But I think right now is a great time to be attracting agents. With COVID-19, everybody's been using all of the rest of their life online. Everybody's been on Zoom calls. Everybody has been locked out of a building or two. And I think that this sped up 2 or 3 years for us at this firm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a huge opportunity for us to be a solution, right? I think it's not, don't come at it with and again, it's the reason why we changed the name of the name of this class. Don't go at it with revenue share breath. They will smell it a mile away, just like they smell, like buyers and sellers smell commission breath. So being the solution. Rich, what do you, so fast forwarding now to today, where are you finding where are you finding the agents to connect with? How are you connecting with them? I know it's still about building a relationship, but any specific techniques there?
Well, I wouldn't call it a technique because it looks awful, but I've been posting about eXp and vomiting over the public for 2.5 years, almost every day. So I signed up 2 level 1s last month that reached out to me directly. I am also, I'm also still reaching out to people occasionally, but I'm not doing it as cold as I used to. So I'll give you an example. I had this lady that was liking a lot of our posts on my Facebook, on my personal page. So I popped on her profile and I saw she was at a firm and she's in a different state than I'm in. And I messaged her and I said, hey, listen, I said, I know we're strangers. You seem to be tolerating my Facebook post. What firm do you work for? How long have you been in business? What's your take on everything? And we started having some dialogue. And she hit me up to be part of she was liking my stuff because she wanted to bring me into some kind of multi-level marketing that involved like your utility bills get tied into your cell phone or something. I don't know. I have a short attention span. Now I'm not doing anything. I mean, I'm only doing eXp. And so I get my black belt at eXp, then I'll wander into other stuff. But to me, that's 50 level 1s that qualify, So anyway, I said to her, I'm like, it sounds really interesting. I've got a platform that does is more like a co-op than a multi-level marketing. We all own a portion of the company. And I like the way co-ops work. And, if you're in real estate, you understand how that works. And we have an ability to get rid of all these antiquated expenses that ended up either going into the founder's pocket or into the expenses, most of them unnecessary at this stage of the game. And they recycle it back to the agents. I mean, we take roughly 50% of our gross revenue and give it back to the agents in stock and in revenue share. And the majority of agents, don't do agent attraction. But there's a few hundred of us that are very entrepreneurial and we can't shake it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I mean, Caldwell Banker Those are guys that didn't sell real estate at some point, right? Gary Keller, right? Gary Keller's not taking a buyer out this weekend, right? I have a lot of respect for these guys. So I'm not ashamed to be part of that group if I can earn my way in. And, this model is a conforming model. When I worked at Remax, you guys can't see me, but, I've got tattoos and, I'm against the grain. I don't fit into a real estate company. I live in the South and, it's a lot of big apple pies and, everyone goes to the same church and everyone drives a Suburban, and, I drove my motorcycle to work often. So eXp was a company in which I have to conform to. I just had to perform, and I like that. And I think that there's a lot of agents, especially as these new agents enter the business, that don't want to wear name tags and don't want to go to sales meetings and don't want to feel like a W-2 when we're 1099. So, I kind of found my crowd, and by walking to the beat of my own drum, some other people decided to walk along and listen to this beat and see if it works for them. And I have agents that are very conventional to very unconventional, but everybody's welcome at this company as long as you're ethical.
Good stuff, Rich. And by the way, you and I have to lobby to get our tattoos for our avatars in here because I'm still waiting for that one. They got flip flops, but no tattoos yet. So
I don't know how to lobby. I just complain and then I go quiet.
Rich, kind of backing up a bit there because I'm sure, and I don't know if the question was already actually asked in the chat box. But one of the questions we always get, and you're probably one of the prime people to answer this. A lot of questions are, but how do I get started? People don't know about eXp, or it's the flip side, and you now get to experience both because you guys have exploded that marketplace. How do you answer the person who asks, well, how do I even get started? It's nobody knows about eXp. How do you answer that one first?
Oh, okay, so I answer with that with you're so lucky. So I accidentally built a pool of agents that did such a good job recruiting that I can't fish in my own pond anymore because I don't want to talk to anybody that they can sign up, right? I just want to support them in signing them up. So we are dealing with the issue, eXp is a recruiting company, and then we post that we did $1.3 billion and we're the @1 office in the Charlotte MLS, and the audience goes quiet, right? But that's the spin zone. Back when we first started at eXp, thanks, Lance, for posting that in the chat box, man. When we first started eXp, we were able to control the narrative. And that's why I created the 3-lane highway. My good friend Lance posted my YouTube channel on the thing, but you could share that thing. It's 1.5 minutes, so it doesn't require a big attention span. But if I can control the narrative, it's much better than having to play defense. It's like buying a business that had a reputation and saying there's new management, or just opening your own business and creating the experience firsthand. So if you're in a new market, the way that I would approach that is I would call up agents that sell a ton of real estate, people that don't want to give you the time of the day. And I would call them up and I'd say, hey, listen, my name is Rich Tom. Like if you drop me off in the middle of Indiana, as long as I had an iPhone and a yellow pad and a pen, I think I'm in business. I mean, I would call these people up and say, hey, my name is Rich Tomasini. I noticed that you're killing it in sales. I'm new to the market. I was kind of a big deal at my last state, but I'm a nobody now. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain on how you've been able to dominate the market here? Frankly, instead of competing against you, maybe there's a spot for me to work with you in a better way. And I would meet them for coffee, Zoom call, and I would let them talk and get their guard down so they can just be a human being and not be defensive. Like we all are so defensive these days. And then at that point, let the conversation roll. Well, when you're a business owner, you have a very big choice to make. Do I go work for a brokerage where I'm a tenant and I pay rent every month forever, never have any equity in the company? Or do I start my own company? Why did you not start your own company? I would explain to him eXp was built for independent companies to use this as a platform for stuff you guys don't understand and can't do. So it depends on the conversation, but I would ask them questions. And I have a coach, I have a coach, and that's important. Carlos Velez is my coach, and he's the best coach ever. He's from Puerto Rico. He's about 50 years old, and he cuts through the butter like a hot knife. And he calls me out when he needs to, and he encourages me to be stronger in the places that I'm well versed in. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that if I ask you why 3 or 4 times in a row, before we know it, we're at the nucleus of how you really feel and what caused you to feel that. And I feel like if you ask these agents questions, a lot of them have just gone on autopilot and haven't thought about it. I mean, we're telling clients all the time, don't rent a house, own a house. You can own a house for just a bit more than you could rent a property, or in our market, you can own a house for less than the cost of rent, right? So why would you, at RE/MAX, why did I give them all that money all the time? It makes no sense, right? Well, here we can have equity in a company. And if you do 10 years of business, it was costing me $100,000 a year at my former brokerage to run my team. Right? Times that by 20 years, and there's $2 million. That's what $2 million would have compounded in 20 years. Well, at eXp, I've got 6 figures of stock, haven't paid a drop for it. And then I've been able to build out a revenue share that, exceeded any of my best years selling real estate. And why would you not look at that as a platform for you to do what you're doing and also be able to compound and have ancillary income? And I think that conversation can move. It's a fluid thing. It's an energy that happens. And, you start off defensive and distrusting and unfamiliar and awkward and wanting to end the conversation. But if you're interesting and you keep it interesting and you let them do all the talking, you can start moving into a conversation that opens up some dialogue. And, it's not going to be easy. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. But if you continue to do that, you'll get better at it.
Well, I mean, Rich, you nailed it. I mean, we could literally end the class right now, 30 minutes in, and I think everybody's got tons of notes already. It's exactly that, right? We hear it all the time, and maybe that's the problem is we hear build a relationship. We hear tell me about yourself, right? But you went through and you actually hit on some really good questions because you also stated some of these guys, they just have never heard these questions. Nobody's asked them these things before. And so if you're asking them those questions, and again, I love the approach of meeting them. That was always my favorite approach. Is I'm just asking for a cup of coffee. I'm not. It's a cup of coffee is a 20, 30-minute event. Can turn into longer, but you get to also control that. Kind of back to the point we made earlier. If the conversation isn't going the way you want it to go, or you're realizing they're not the right person, again, not everybody's the right fit for eXp too. So I love that you're in full control. So I love everything that you're sharing so far with us.
So Sam, you have to be, I'm going to hit this chat box in a second. I'll answer some questions, but, and I've got something that you guys can work off on how to do this. Okay. I'll be a bit more specific here, but, in fighting, when you're doing martial arts or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or boxing, and you see it in street fights and you see it everywhere, whoever's tense and rigid loses. Right? You have to be fluid. I'm a lot like water. If you grab my arm in a fight, I'm going to go to you. I'm not going to resist. I'm going to move, and I'm going to use your energy against you or create a plan as I go in. And you got to stay fluid in these conversations. You got to let them move around. You don't want to be rigid. You don't want to be waiting to talk. You don't want to be selling them. You want to be able to ask them questions that cause them to think more, And like, for example, like if anybody in this room was doing $20 million of business. It's an easy question. Hey, listen, you're like dominating the market. I see your signs all over my neighborhood. Is your company giving you all that business? And then what's an agent going to say? No way. It's definitely all me. So what is your company giving you? Because if you figured out how to get all the business, what else do you need? Oh, well, I like my broker in charge. All right, good. That's good. You have a strong broker in charge. What do you like about that? Right? When they have a good month, how much money do they give you back? You guys have the best July that you've ever had. What did they return back to you? What's your healthcare system like? Are you paying $1,500 a month like I was paying? How much stock is the company giving you? How much is the most amount of money that you'll pay? Do you have a cap? Are you able to earn that cap back? What's your lead generation look like? What's the technology like at that company? Right? And you just ask these questions, Hold on real quick. It says, I find it difficult for them to go to a presentation. They don't know what they're saying no to. Okay, so Judy, real quick. I called this guy in Florida today that is a huge agent. And I called him at 8 in the morning and I said, listen, I run a rather large team and I'm moving into Florida. I've got 7 or 8 agents there. And I'd like to talk to you about what 2025 looks like. And I'm sure that you don't want to do this, but I'm quite interested in connecting. And if you do some research on me, I think that you might be able to find that I'm not going to waste your time. And he goes, I'm not interested. And I said, in what? And he goes, in meeting. I said, so you're not interested in any opportunity at all? And he said, no. I said, do you know what I do? He goes, no. And I said, all right, that's it. There's nothing else to talk to. And I didn't give up because I couldn't come up with another objection handle. I mean, I could have easily said, listen, man, there's no way in the world that you can progress forward without looking at things as an opportunity. Warren Buffett looks at it, right? But that mindset right off the bat was like, you know, I don't know if I want to do life with this guy, right? So, I mean, sometimes you have to overcome objections. Sometimes you have to work around conditions. But I think that if you're doing something every day, you're going to land into people where your timing's good. So if they don't want to see a presentation, don't give them one. Have a conversation, ask them some questions. Let me see. I had one other thing, Sam, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Okay, I guess I'm talking fast. How do you get past the conversations of feeling weird? Okay, so this is a very easy one. So I feel weird when I leave the house and my wife's got 2 kids under 4, and then I come to work and look at Facebook and then look at, you know, F100 trucks and motorcycles on eBay for an hour, and then have a 45-minute lunch, and then talk to my buddy Tom in the office, and then call my agents and discuss how they're going, and then go home, and then I try to sell my wife on the fact that I work today. That makes me feel super weird. Where if I had that call at 8 o'clock and went home at 9 o'clock in the morning, I knew that I swung at a pitch that could have hit a windshield. And I don't feel weird at all. I felt weird in the moment, but I feel complete that at the end of the day, I stood up and tried to do something, right? So that's how I think in my head, which allows me not to feel so weird. Feeling weird is going to probably be common if you're doing anything different than what you did yesterday. If you guys like exactly where your life is, then just repeat what you did yesterday and the weeks before, and it'll probably stay very, very, very close to that, outside of any, you know, extraordinary events that just happen and blindside you. For me, you know, I wasn't always thrilled with the way that my life looked like, so I continued to try to make a life that looked better. And I knew that I'd have to do different things and think differently and behave differently to get there. So you know, weird is probably a good thing. Sam, I've got a structure that might be able to help everybody.
Sure,
like
go for it. Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so I talked a little bit about this. So there's 3 things I want to talk about. So the lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. Just spend 90 seconds, watch my video on YouTube, subscribe. That would help me if you could. But if you don't, it's okay. Just watch the videos. You can share them at your will. They're all eXp approved. Anything that has eXp in there, I've gone through compliance. So go on there and check that out. I got sick of doing video, so I stopped doing it. And I go through spurts, so I'll probably get back on it for a little while.
Please do, Rich. We love your content. They're awesome.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I will. I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I'm having a lot of fun with my 1-year-old because I missed the first year of my older son's life. It was the first year I was over at eXp, and I was at work a lot. So I'm playing a little bit, but I'll come back. But so you got the 3 lanes is an easy way to explain that in a minute, right? And people haven't thought about the fact that they don't have a lane 2 and a lane 3. But the other thing is that you have to understand, there's a very good book called The E-Myth, and I think they made a sequel called The E-Myth Revisited. It's E-M-Y-T-H, and it talks about businesses, and what happens in businesses is that you're a technician, right? So I became a technician. I was an appraiser. I was making about $70,000 a year in my 20s, and I wanted to pull up in a nicer car at the appointments because every time I met a listing agent, they were in a big body Mercedes and I was in a Honda, and it upset me. I was like irritated by that. So I said, forget it, man. I can only do so many appraisals. I need to get into something different. So I took my sales license, and when I moved to North Carolina, I said, I'm not doing appraisals anymore, but I'll use the knowledge. I'm just not doing it anymore. So I became a technician, and I became a pretty proficient technician because I was an appraiser and I understood valuations and I talked about things that other agents don't talk about. And at some point it got very, very busy and I was worn out. So then I said, okay, broker at RE/MAX, and I said, listen, I can't go on like this. I'll burn out in 5 years. I need something else. And she said, Rich, you need to build a team and hire a buyer's agent. I said, okay, well, I'll do that. So I hired a buyer's agent, and that made me a bit of a manager. And I realized, right along with my buyer's agent, is that I was a terrible manager. Like, I mean, now, you know, one of the more proficient salespeople or performers is out of the field orchestrating an awful management style. So at that point, I was like, listen, I need to hire a manager, but I really can't afford one, and I have no time to be an entrepreneur. And I got stuck in that undertow for years and years. I became a better manager, but still not a good one. And when I saw eXp, I was like, okay, so now I can be a technician. eXp will help manage me, take a lot of liability off my shoulders because I don't want to be a broker in charge every day. But I can be an entrepreneur for $150, and I can pick up the phone or my social media, and I can build relationships, and I can grow an expansion team far beyond what Keller Williams ever thought of on expansion models. I never worked at Keller Williams, but I'm surrounded by them, so I understand Keller Williams model pretty well. So we have to understand the difference between being a technician, a manager, and an entrepreneur. At eXp, like, I know revenue share is a bit of an elephant in the room. I don't understand why. This is the only company that allowed you to be an entrepreneur for $150. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, yeah, man. You know, Glenn Sanford said two things. One, he wants to create millionaires. I mean, I've never heard somebody say that. And two, he never wants to be in direct conflict with an agent of his. I mean, how nice is that to hear? My God, all I saw was conflict at other firms, right? So, I mean, I think you have to understand how to package the deal. You have to understand, what are you? Are you really a technician, or are you a manager, or are you an entrepreneur? And if you're a little bit of all of them, but you really want to be a good entrepreneur, you guys are in the right seat, okay? And then the third thing is what I'm going to kind of unfold here, and I don't want to be too redundant, and I also want to give credit where credit's due. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos because I can't read no attention span. My wife reads, I watch YouTube videos, right? And I do a lot of John Maxwell coaching. I built my entire revenue share off having 3 disciples that turns into 12, that turns into 5,000. That's my business plan. I want 5,000 agents, and I want to spend all my time with my 3 and 12, okay? But the way that Dave Ferguson, he has a livingtolead.com, express this. Let me write that in here real quick. I'll take a quick buzz. And then you can see how slow I type. livingtolead.com. He was my first coach, and I've had 2, and they were both great. Carlos works with me in a whole different light, and I need that right now. But Dave kind of gave me a foundation, and he calls it ladder. And I'm going to type it in here, and I'll slow down so you guys can write this down. Okay, write that word ladder vertically at the top and R at the bottom. And this is kind of the filter that I use. Like, you know, when I have coffee, I make coffee for my wife and I in the morning as a compliment for her, so she wakes up and has her drink ready. And I use a filter, a coffee filter. We use an old school coffee machine, right? And the filter for me at eXp is this acronym called ladder. So R is recognizing that you're in a leadership position. So when I came over to eXp, we didn't have anybody that was doing revenue share any real level here in Charlotte. So at that point, I discussed, you know, we had AJ had just come over, AJ Maida. He had just come over, and he brought over Craig and Shelly, who were upfitting, Craig LePage and Shelly Johnson, who were upfitting their office and really focused on doing that, and also very new at the company and selling a lot of real estate. And they brought over Bill Price, and he brought myself over, and this all happened in the course of like a summer, right? I think I was the last of the Mohicans that came over with a joint date of 9/1, September 1st, 2017. And they were all leaders in their own right, but we didn't really have culture here. We didn't have any real agents. So I recognized that I was in a leadership position right away, just as they did, and we all have our own different styles. But I started to create a culture and go after the people that were going to set a culture that were aligned with my value setup. Work hard in the foxhole, work in the trenches with my agents, and perform. You know, that was the mojo that I was going to do, and I wanted agents that would appreciate that and do the same with their people so we could grow. E is engage and connect. I think realtors are very good at engaging and very poor at connecting. You don't want to have one connection point to build a lot off. You want to have multiple connection points. So Sam and I both have tattoos. I've realized in person and on stage, he reminded me of that, right? So that can get us past what's the weather like in California, Sam? Well, here in North Carolina, it's 65 and overcast. Now we can talk about tattoos. How old were you when you got your first tattoo? How many do you have, right? Did your parents freak out? My dad didn't talk to me for months, right? But I need another connection point. So Sam, let me just use you as an example. Do you have kids?
I do.
Okay, I have kids. So we both have lost sleep worrying, and we both are trying to make our kids better, which leads into revenue share. It's inheritable, right? we build stock. This is good for our families. We want to get our time back, right? So Sam, I lived in California and San Diego for a short period of time. I don't know if you knew that. Where in California are you?
I didn't know that, and I actually grew up nearby San Diego, near Temecula.
Okay, all right, good. So we could talk about that, right? Sam, how old are you?
43.
Okay, I'll be 43 in July. Okay, so we're going to make multiple connection points, and I haven't had a chance to connect with Sam in the way that I want to. He's juggling a lot of balls right now, right? And so am I on a much smaller level. But at some point, I'm going to be able to step aside and talk to Sam, and I want to know who he is. I mean, I get a good sense of who he is, but we haven't made enough connection points to put any real weight. He gives me amazing service and support from his love of the company and his role and position. But if we can build a friendship as we go through this, I'll do anything for Sam. What blood type are you? How can I help you? Is there anything I can do here? Do you want me to have a conversation with somebody for you here, right? And the more connection points, the more we can build off that relationship. What I find a lot of agents do is they connect on 1 or 2 points, and then they have all these unrealistic expectations and entitlement and weight that they put on those connection points, and the relationship can't support it. So it dissolves and it disintegrates. So try to make connection points on 3, if I can connect with, my 3.5-year-old had a seizure on Friday. First time it ever happened. I spent the night with him in the hospital, and then my 1-year-old had a fever at the same time, so my wife was home. And with COVID-19, both parents weren't allowed in the ER, and I was stressed out. Well, my buddy Lance, who's sitting on the front row there, was telling me about his family, and they had grand mal seizures and his grandkids, and not only does Lance my level 1, but his son-in-law is my level 2, and I know these guys, I trust these guys, right? So, I mean, Sam was able to relate with me because we know each other, right? And if I needed Sam to, that's Sam, if I needed Lance to help me out, he would have helped me out, and I would help out Lance on anything. So we built a relationship where we can add a lot more to it. So that's a very important connection. The next key is driving results. So maybe it's because I came from a socioeconomic place to where I wanted more than what was in my neighborhood that drove me, or maybe it was my dad pushing me out of my comfort zone a lot. I don't know what it was, but driving results comes very easy to me. I think it's probably honestly a combination of that and martial arts. In martial arts, there's no excuses. You're going to do. So you have to drive results. And when it comes down to revenue share and having these conversations, you need to drive a result every day. I've got agents that are brand new that said, Rich, I can't do revenue share. And I'm like, well, I met a guy named Wilco that at our first convention that I attended in Fort Lauderdale, not our first, but my first convention in Fort Lauderdale. And I took an Uber back to the hotel with him. And he was telling me that he had sold like just a few houses. And I think Wilco's got an organization that's the same size as mine, right? And yet, let alone I've been in the, in the foxhole for 21 years out here selling houses, building relationships. So it's just your approach. You got to find somebody that has an approach that you can relate with and then build it. So driving results is very important. If someone's not going to drive the results, everything else is just a show. You have to drive the results. The other D is developing other people. And this is where I spend probably the most of my week at this company. Your level 1s have to be able to duplicate what you're doing. You can't scale as a hero. And, I'm not a real estate coach or a real estate celebrity, and I'm not all over YouTube, and I don't have a huge social media following, and I'm not a model, right? Like, I'm not going to attract agents in those avenues. I know, Sam, bothers me too. So the approach that I decided to do is I'm going to utilize my brain, right? I don't have the highest IQ in every room, but I'm above average, and I can move through this. And I started to work this thing. And when I brought agents over, I find most people can identify with me rather than the latter, and we can start building this. So we have agents. I have 12 agents that are making over $5,000 a month in revenue share out of 44 agents at the company, right? So if I can get agents seed, that's what's more important to me is not how many level 1s I have, is the fact that I have 44 level 1s, but I got 230 level 2s. That's what's more important. That means that everybody else is doing it. So developing other people is going to have to work for you guys if you want to participate in revenue share. We have a lot of people that have 5,000 agents on their level 7 and 30 agents on the level 2, right? And it's great if you can run across, a Curtis Johnson or one of these amazing agents out there that's going to blow things up. I don't want to start naming names because there's so many to name. I'll lose somebody out. But I mean, that's great. But I'm going to build my revenue share with agents that are going to have 100 agents underneath them, but we're going to try to get everybody to 100. And that's the way that I decided to work it. So developing other people was going to be very important for me because it was going to take all of the luck out of it. And I'm not saying that it's not that everyone's lucky that's getting a good agent. I mean, it takes months of conversation, but it is lucky when you have an agent that really performs high. I've been lucky too. I've got several agents that have come over here and, have taken it in and done a good job. And I've learned a lot from them. And we're going to continue to work together and sharpen our swords at this. But the developing others works this way. If my 44 level 1s are fully developed, right, then I don't have to spend all the time that they should be spending on my level 2s. We have a cascading chief model now. They are in control of their level 1s, and they are in control of their level 1s. So the more level 1s that I can develop, they can teach more of the level 2s to be leaders and develop, and we'll have better attrition. And it's a work in progress. The A is to advance the vision. So I don't really have a vision here. I have a why. I do this for my 2 boys and my wife. Before I met my wife, I had my motorcycle in my living room, and I used to smoke cigarettes and sleep until 10 in the morning. So not a whole lot of high D in my personality until the stakes got higher, right? But once I was shocked that my wife wanted to be with me and she was into this, I was like, I better step up because I'm going to have to be a lot more interesting to keep this woman's, attention span. She's super smart. I better try to make something of myself. And I started to try to develop and grow and get stronger. So my why was to try to grow as a business person and as a human being, and then to try to provide a better life for my kids, just like my dad tried to do, my mom tried to do for me, right? So that was my why, but my actual vision was very unclear. I'm not really, I like classic cars, but I'll never drop $400,000 on McLaren. A is advance the vision, okay? I'll never need a $5 million house, whether I can afford it or not. I just don't need that. We're building a house on the side of a mountain in Asheville right now that's gonna hang off the cliff and have mostly glass, but it's probably gonna be 2,000 square feet because wherever I'm at, my 2 boys are on me like a jungle gym anyway, and my wife's always, I can't comb my hair without my wife's talking to me about something she heard on a podcast or whatever, so I don't need a big house. Otherwise, we'll have to have an intercom system. So that doesn't motivate me, but what does motivate me is that, I have agents that are going to go into retirement with an extra $5,000 of residual income. That is very, very interesting to me. The median age for a real estate agent is 58 years old. Why do we have 58-year-old agents unprepared to retire out of real estate? It's because there's no retirement plan in this, right? So it's a lot easier for me to get 6 agents to bring over 6 agents than it is for me to save $900,000. That's a lot more doable. So advance the vision is important, and it's not my vision, it's your vision. If you guys are on my revenue share team, it's got to be your vision. I've got a couple agents on here. I mean, I'm looking through the names, and I've got agents in different states. And if you think about it, like different visions. One of my guys right now, JC, I used to use his gym. He's a gym owner of a company. His wife's a major in the Army or one of the branches in the military. He was in Germany, and then he moved to New Braunfels, Texas. And he started as a new eXp agent. I actually tried to give him the Pat Hayes because I was worried that I couldn't support him here. So I was like, Pat, I'll give you a level 1. And JC said, no way, I'm staying with you, Rich. We'll just figure it out. Like, I was shocked that he said that, So, JC's vision is to sell houses. And I don't know if you're still on this thing, JC, but if you are, put in the chat box how many houses you sold this year. It's his first year, and he's selling houses. So right now, look, JC's typing right now. Check this out. 4 houses sold, right? So brand new. So here's the cool thing is that right now, the vision for me and JC is so he sells more houses. But in year 3, we're not going to be having this conversation. We're going to be having the conversation is, okay, how does somebody else sell those houses for you under your team name? And how do we start expanding this? Because JC knows a lot of people, right? So whereas like Lance's vision might be totally different in this room. Lance is like, listen, man, I want to go into retirement and be with my wife and my RV and my grandkids. And I want extra income plus Social Security plus what we save, right? So that's what we're working on, right? And Alexis is totally different. Alexis is, you know, a firecracker in Charlotte that's 31 years old, I think. And she is new to real estate, icon. And her vision is to build out a revenue share team. And I think she's going to run by me. And it's not going to happen right away because we're developing her. But every year, Alexis is stronger and stronger and stronger and smart. So it all comes in quickly. So it's their vision. And then the last piece, since we have 8 minutes left, and I'll let Sam wrap it up, you know, or Q&A, is L. And that's the legacy. And, you know, if you think about it, your legacy is being written right now. You're either just contributing to it or paying attention to it and trying to elevate it, or you're not. And, you know, I don't know what my legacy is at eXp. It's probably very small, but my legacy in my house is a very big and important role. And so my legacy is going to be like not lying, no lies, no white lies, no nothing. I got to lead by example for my kids, dealing with bad news immediately and honestly, and not always having the answers, but having the interest to have the conversations and see if we can work through stuff by putting other people before myself, by not being selfish. Been a good decade consumed about what matters to me, and it doesn't really matter, right? So your legacy piece is important. And I'll tell you a big thing for all of you realtors out there that are working nights and weekends and you got cell phone addictions and you're exhausted and you're not in good shape because we're all working too many hours and all of this stuff. You guys, your legacy is going to be greatly diminished if you can't spend time with the people you care most about. So do the revenue share for them if you don't do it for yourself. But this last year, I didn't work more than 20 hours a week this last year. Now I worked a hard 20 and I worked it when it needed to be worked, but I didn't work more than 20 hours this last week. So I'm going to type in the chat comments here, what each thing stands for. And then Sam, if you could buy me a couple minutes, I'll get that done and then answer anything you have.
Absolutely, Rich. This has been absolutely amazing. Love everything that you're delivering to the group here. No doubt. I mean, I will speak for the group and speak for eXp. That, I mean, talk about legacy, Rich. You've done an outstanding job. I look at your group, and I say your group, not necessarily your organization, but I think overall, all throughout Charlotte, the feeling that I get, and I've been to Charlotte I think twice now to come out to see you guys. And it's a community of givers. I see you guys, you're giving back by way of teaching, you know, sales classes. You guys are a tight-knit group collectively coming together. You're holding lunch and learns together. You know, nothing's divided there. And I think that's why, a big part of why you guys are seeing the success that you guys have had. So huge shout out to you. And talk about legacy, Rich. You're still writing it, and it's already a great one. So you've definitely symbolize, you know, a leader within the company, and we appreciate everything that you've done for eXp. So loving it. We do have about 4 minutes left, and Rich, it's awesome you've been answering a lot of the questions in the chat box already. I will go ahead and open up. Maybe we got time for 1 or 2 questions. Guys, if you have a question for Rich, open up your mic and go ahead and give it a shout.
Oh, let me add one last thing while you guys are opening up your mics. Of the 880 agents I have, about 700 of them are in Charlotte. So I decided to build a team that's close by. So that might help you possibly.
That's good to hear as well.
Okay.
Perfect.
Question.
Oh, yep, Pamela.
Go ahead.
As a new agent and not knowing others, would you suggest going to just single agents teams or someone that's in charge of the team?
Well, so listen, you know, with revenue share, we're all brand new agents, right? I mean, how long did it take for you to understand how revenue share works? That's why I did it over sugar packets on YouTube, because I felt like it needed to be explained in a way that we could all understand it in 5 minutes, right? So as a brand new recruiter, because I've never recruited, I don't know if I'm a recruiter now. I'm just a business owner that wants agents to see the light on this thing, and we could all benefit if we work together. So we're all white belts in revenue share. So here's the cool thing, Pamela, is that you and I had the exact same experience on day one at eXp, and no one has a lot of experience at eXp doing this in revenue share. The company's only been around since 2009, and we only had about 500 agents in 2015, right? So we all learned this recently. So become an expert on revenue share, and then you can talk to anybody. Forget about sales. You don't have, that's not the conversation. They're not going to meet you for a cup of coffee so you can increase their sales anyway.
Oh, I meant because as a new real estate agent, I'm just guessing. I was thinking if I met somebody that was very productive and had a bunch of people under them that they might be asking me about how many sales I've made on my real estate side, which I haven't done anything yet.
Yeah. No, I get it. So, okay, so there's a couple ways to handle this, right? So if you're confident, it doesn't matter, because I don't think anyone has ever asked me in the 44 level ones that I have how much real estate production I've done.
Oh.
I mean, I kind of go into the conversation and then they forget to ask. And then, but if you're not confident, and I'm not confident in everything, I mean, when I'm doing electrical work at my house, I'm on YouTube and my wife's scratching her head. So, I think that if you're not confident, it's just because you need to practice in it and practice more in it. And what you could say is I'm a business owner and I'm a shareholder of eXp, which is the #1 independent company in the country. We did $11 billion of sales in the last quarter. You can look us up. And as a business owner, I'm looking at realtors out there on the hamster wheel, burning out 20, 30, 40% back to their brokerage and procuring all the business. And it's always mystifying. I'm flabbergasted by the idea that we have no equity in our brokerages and all we talk about is equity in real estate. I'd like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and talk to you about a different way to do this. And then I'm not going to ask you to come to the company. I just want you to see it. And then you can choose to forget about it if it doesn't click. And if it does, I can answer more questions. I can show you what it looks like. There's a lot to talk about.
Can I ask you one more quick question?
You can ask all you want.
So if somebody's working for Caldwell, Remax, what have you, and they've been around for a long time, they have a huge team, and their name is well known, is that somebody that I should not go after for a while, or have somebody that's way up in the chain do this with me and for me?
Okay, so good question. Well, I have two specific answers on that. So one, I wouldn't go at them not because of your lack of experience. I wouldn't go at them because of your lack of comfort in the model and mastering revenue share conversations. Okay? If you can master that in the next 3 weeks, if you stay on my YouTube channel long enough, you'll master it. But if you can master that next 3 weeks, I say go right for it. Okay? Because other people are going to be too intimidated. I always use my wife as an example. Like, my kids are really good looking because my wife's not really good looking, not because of me, right? So I was definitely intimidated to talk to her, but I'd rather get a no from her than a yes from somebody I wasn't interested in, right? So, I mean, have that mentality. And then the second part of that is that you don't want to go to your up team and have them have to sell for you. That's unfair to them. They're trying to do it for themselves. It's exhausting. How much of the model do you know? I get people initially until I got them trained say, hey, Rich, I need you to call this person. Like, I don't even know what you're calling about. I was like, come on, man. Right? So, I mean, the way to do that is get them to watch a video or attend one of my Zoom calls. And at that point, then get your up team to close them and help you with that. So yeah, I mean, do you know here's the first thing, find out who's in your up team. Because there's probably somebody talented within a couple steps.
There is.
Yeah, who is it?
I think, if I'm not sure, or if I'm correct, the person that's two above me, I believe he's under Bob Mangle.
Perfect. You got a killer. So once you have them understanding the model so they can have an elevated conversation, schedule a call and call that person first and see what kind of holes they have in their schedule and get a 3-way call going.
Okay.
Yeah, edify. We've learned that one a lot over the past year. Rich, I know we can keep on going. We're actually a couple minutes over time right now. This has been amazing. A huge round of applause and big thank you, Rich, for dropping all the golden nuggets here today. I know we didn't even get a chance to get to some of the other questions. And guys, I'm sure, Rich, you're okay with them reaching out with a couple other questions, if you don't mind. And again, Rich, huge thank you. We do a tradition here. We dance our way out of the room. Rich, if you are ready, you can either F7 if you're on a PC or there we go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Love
Thank
it.
you, Sam. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Good stuff, Rich. I appreciate everything. Keep on rocking
Thank you,
it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And that is a wrap on another episode of HiiVE Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and give this episode a thumbs up if you like what you heard, and remember to subscribe for future episodes. You can also catch some highlights and other eXp news and industry buzz on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts.